I'll say hello at the beginning if you like.
Okay. Hello. So my name is Mike Peel. We've got Andy Mabbott here as well, and we'll be talking about automatically maintained citations with Wikidata and Cite Q. Hopefully you can see the slides. Great. Andy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Andy Mabbott, known as user Pigs on the Wing.
My username is Mike Peel, so very easy to remember. So the basic idea is we want to use Wikidata to display references. So this would greatly simplify wikitext and the time that it takes to write out a citation. At the moment, if you want to put a reference into a journal article, you have to use something like this code. So it's very long, you have to write out every single parameter. And there's autofill that you can use to populate this based on the DOI, for example. But it's really not very user-friendly or very nice to work with when you're, particularly if you're working with a very complex article. So the idea is instead you just use Cite Q and give it the Q ID of the reference you want to use, and that's it. So everything else is done for you automatically. It also will automatically update. So if you add a new article for, say, one of the authors to the Wikidata item, all of the citations that you've used through Cite Q will have automatically updated to link to that article. And also, if you do something like correct the URL for reference, then all citations automatically get updated with that reference, with that URL. It's something which will be intrinsically multilingual. So you will translate the article into another language. You don't need to bother with the reference at all. It'll automatically display as long as you've got the Cite Q module installed on that wiki as well. And it'll display in the local wiki language as well. So you don't have to bother translating complex bits of wiki text just for the references. It also means that you can edit the reference in your language because Wikidata is intrinsically multilingual. So you can use it in your language and edit all different parameters of it. And when you do that as well, of course, all uses of it across all the language wikis will automatically update as well. So using references becomes a lot more easier. Maintaining references becomes easier. You can also do things like track the changes. So say an article is retracted by the authors. You can just add a statement to Wikidata and it will automatically update the reference and find all uses of that citation and add them to a shared tracking category, which you can then use to go and look through and update all the references. And at this point, I'm going to hand over to Andy to continue.
Thank you, Mike. If you could change the slide, please. So, as Mike has indicated, you can edit your citations on Wikidata, and this is a much more sensible way to proceed. If you think about images that we use on Wikipedia, we don't hold a separate copy of each image on every page where it's used because that would be incredibly inefficient. And we do hold a copy of each reference locally, which is also very inefficient. And Cite Q allows us to centralize those in the same way that we centralize images on Commons. It also gives quite a lot of local configurability, so that if you wish to display part of a citation, but not all of it, or change the way it's displayed in a particular article page on your project, you can do that. So if you want to cite a book, but you only wish to refer to certain pages, or if you wish to suppress the display of some or all of the author names, that's in the control of the individual editor locally. We don't intend to impose a central view on that. It's very much something you can deal with on a local level. Next slide, please, Mike. And because of that, this has been used already on 32 Wikipedias and on projects such as Wikidata, Wikispecies, and I believe Wikimedia Commons. And we're hoping that some of you will port the Cite Q template from the English Wikipedia, which is where it happens to have been developed, into your own projects. And we're happy to assist you with that. There is little or no translation that needs to be done other than of the documentation so that people can understand it. And although it's hosted on the English Wikipedia because that's where we started it, we're not suggesting that the English Wikipedia has any authority over other Wikipedias with this. We've deliberately made the template multilingual and portable, and we want you to work with us to make it a global template that can be used in any project, which is something that we're hoping that Wikimedia will make more technically feasible in the future, so you don't have to manually copy across the code. Next slide, please, Mike. Mike worked on this article recently, South Pole Telescope. As I say worked on, Mike wrote this article, and all the citations in the article use Cite Q. So if you want to see an example of how it works, or if you want to show your colleagues in your own project that it is feasible, then you can see on this article that it supports a number of different citation styles and works quite efficiently. Next slide, please, Mike. So as I say, you have to edit the sources on Wikidata in order to add them there and to update them. But it's a simple thing that we can collaborate on across languages, and you only have to do it once. You don't have to do it in each page where you're going to use the citation. Next slide, please, Mike. And we're part of the WikiCite movement. So this was originally written ready for the 2017 WikiCite conference in Vienna. And we'd like to acknowledge the WikiCite team for the support they gave us in terms of grant funding to enable us to develop the template. Next slide, please, Mike. Through WikiCite, Wikidata is now made up of about 40% citations. So most of, sorry, not most, but 40% of Wikidata is actually works that can be cited on Wikipedia in other projects. And you can add them yourself. You can add them manually when you need to do a single one. Next slide, please, Mike. Or you can use these tools. So Zotero is a citation management tool used by academics and students when they're writing papers or essays. But Zotero is a tool which will read citation metadata from other people's web pages. So from individual publications, from Google Books and Amazon, from review sites or whatever, and stores the metadata locally on your machine. But you can export from Zotero into quick statements, which is the tool that lets you create or update items on Wikidata. So where you have a large corpus of citations, such as all the works you've cited in your essay, or all the works referenced by another paper, you can create Wikidata items for them as a batch. You can also use SourceMD, which is a bit like the autofill option in Visual Editor or the editing toolbar, where you enter a DOI or a PMID or an ISBN, sorry, not an ISBN, or similar identifiers, and it will generate a quick statements commands for you. Next slide, please, Mike. So that's pretty much where we are. We don't have very much time for questions, but if you'd like to ask them in the Etherpad, we will answer them there. And in the Etherpad are the details of a breakout room where you can come and talk to us after this session. We'd be very happy to chat to you. So please have a go at using Cite Q, either on the English Wikipedia in a sandbox, or import it into your own project, and we'll assist you with that where we're needed. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, and we'll see you in the breakout room.
Thank you. So I see there are a few questions in the Etherpad. So I guess if I read them out, maybe Andy could answer them. So the first one was, is there a script you can run on a page that will change all citations with a DOI to a Cite Q reference?
There isn't. That would be lovely. We'd be happy to talk to anybody who would like to help us work on a script like that. Yeah,
completely agree. And there's also a question, are there any plans or ideas about making some bot that goes back and changes all existing references to them to bring them to Wikidata, which I guess is very similar. At the moment, there isn't.
You can read them into Zotero from a Wikidata page and then paste that into quick statements and create the items yourself that way.
Okay. And one last quick question was, is there any collaboration on making Cite Q one of the future global templates?
Yes, we're talking to Amir, who is working on the Global Templates project. And although Cite Q is already very portable and easy to use on new projects when you copy it from English Wikipedia, we do want to have it eventually held centrally so it will work for everyone with one set of code without having to copy updates across. A question coming in about duplicates, and although Wikidata doesn't recognize them automatically, there are tools and scripts and constraint reports that will do that and identify them for us.
Okay, we've got 6 seconds left, so thank you very much for listening, and see you in the breakout room.
Thank you, everyone. See you there shortly.